In this video, I want to go over a Godzilla 1985 rumor that you may or may not be aware of, and that's the comedy/parody route the film was supposedly meant to go through. So towards the end of the original series of films, Godzilla had went through a change of being a monstrous terror of the world to essentially a comic book superhero. Producer and head of Toho Studios, Tomoyuki Tanaka, even thought it was the wrong route to go for the character. Despite his opinion, people around the world really liked Godzilla. Yes, there were films that did kinda make him seem like a goofy kid's property, at least to the eyes of a grown-up.
Well, kids, it's in black and white, will they understand?
When the 80s came, Tanaka wanted to bring Godzilla back to the way he originally was, a menacing creature meant to symbolize nuclear warfare. In 1984, Godzilla was finally released to Japanese cinemas and people loved it. So the film did well, but now it's time to bring it overseas, leading us to the independent film company New World Pictures, who was one of the only companies willing to distribute the film for American audiences. R.J. Kaiser was put in charge of directing the new American footage that was meant to be spliced in the picture. In an interview with Kaiser, he goes on to say this: essentially, the script for the American scenes that I recall reading was very tongue-in-cheek, very lighthearted. Tony Randall, the producer, told me that they were actively pursuing Leslie Nielsen to play the part that was eventually planned for Raymond Burr. Of course, in the early script, Nielsen was not going to be Steve Martin, the reporter from the original American version of Godzilla. I think he was going to be some sort of American super scientist or something like that. It was all a riff on the type of roles that Leslie Nielsen was at the time. So everything was written in this very tongue-in-cheek style, with hints of Dr. Strangelove, especially the parts dealing with the Pentagon. So as you heard, comedy actor Leslie Nielsen was supposedly meant to play some wacky scientist for the film, to give more craziness for the very straight tone of the movie. In a way, this kinda makes sense. You have to look at things from the perspective of an American citizen back in 1985. There was no internet, and most likely all the previous movies weren't released on any type of home video format yet. Meaning if you just so happen to only watch, let's say, Godzilla's Revenge and Godzilla vs. Megalon, you would think Godzilla is supposedly this big cheesy superhero, with a plushy son and hanging out with robots. This is such a kid's thing.
Well, kids, it's in black and white, will they understand?
Then this movie comes out and you're thinking, what the hell happened? I can only imagine parents bringing their kids to see this movie at the time, getting nightmares or thinking it was really cool. I wish critics would have thought the same way.
This movie, I give Godzilla 1985 1 star, and I'm Roger Ebert.
Anyway, as we know, Leslie Nielsen obviously isn't in the picture, so what happened? Well, according to the producer of the American cut, Tony Randall, he says Nielsen was never asked to be in the picture. We were never going to parody the movie itself, that would just be disrespectful. I love parodies, but I wouldn't work with them. Interviews with others who had worked on the American version claim the film was never going down this route, or just don't remember anything about it. Some might say the parody script did exist because of the lieutenant cracking jokes, and phrases like, "Sayonara, sucker." One fact in mind is that the Japanese version is very serious all the way through. The American version does tone that down a bit, but it was intentional. The script was revitalized to make it more campy and fun for an American audience at the time. They weren't poking fun at anything. In fact, if you saw my differences video on the movie, they were taking things out that probably would have gotten laughed at. Speaking of, I did bring this topic up shortly in my Godzilla 85 video, and on that, I just want to apologize to all of you for not doing my research on the topic beforehand. The video was a long process with many technical hiccups, but that's really no excuse to give unclarified information. Again, I apologize on that. So, in conclusion, the whole parody rumor seems to be just that. I'm not exactly sure where that saying got started from, maybe from the interview with Kaiser, but who knows. Anyways, I just want to thank you all so much for watching toward the end here, and take care. Oh, also if you guys want, tell me more of your stories on Godzilla 1985. My differences video got so many comments of people giving me their stories on how they were introduced to the movie. Godzilla 85 is one of my favorites of the franchise, and hearing you guys express your love for the film is really awesome. If you have more stories to tell, let them be heard. I really do love reading them. Anyways guys, take care.
Oh, what could he want? Unless we find something to appease him. We're